Dear learners, I welcome you all to this class today. So far, we have discussed the theories of human rights. In the theories of human rights, we discuss about the natural rights theory, then the legal rights theory, then the historical theory of rights. And today, we are going to deal with the Marxist theory or Marxist views of rights. The in our previous classes, what we discussed that the natural rights theory about rights theory, we discussed that it believes that human rights are natural and humans are born with certain inherent and inalienable rights. These were the crux of the natural rights theory. After that, we discussed the legal rights theory. We also discussed about the critical evaluation that has been made by Bentham and others so far as natural rights are concerned. And then we found that the legal rights theory maintains that rights are not rights unless recognized by the state and protected by the law. So they were critical of the natural rights theory, and after that they advanced the legal rights theory, and they said that unless the natural rights are recognized by the state and protected by the law, they will be hollow and shallow. After that, we discussed the historical theory of rights, which claims that human rights have not been abruptly claimed and secured, but they have evolved over centuries. Rights have been rooted in the customs and traditions of a society according to the historical theory of rights. We also discuss the weaknesses and contributions of these theories to the development of human rights. In today's lecture, we will discuss the Marxist view or the Marxist theory of rights. You must have noticed that here we have written Marxist theory oblique views of rights. The reason for writing theory oblique views is that some scholars believe that there is nothing like a Marxist theory of rights. Without going into the details of the debate about whether there is a Marxist theory of rights, we will try to explain human rights in the light of Marxism-Leninism. At the outset, it should be pointed out that many Marxist scholars believe that human rights are a bourgeois construct and are the result of bourgeois revolutions. You will find a good number of Marxist scholars and thinkers that believe that the very idea of the human rights itself is a bourgeois construct. It's a bourgeois construct, as well as, according to them, these human rights have been achieved by the bourgeois revolutions, from Magna Carta to the Glorious Revolution of England or the French Revolution. According to them, all these revolutions were bourgeois revolution. While explaining the evolution of human rights, we pointed out that from the Magna Carta to the French and American Revolution, the first generation rights, that is, civil and political rights, were demanded or claimed. And you'll find that the liberal nation states or the capitalist states, they have been always championing the cause of civil and political rights. For them, civil and political rights are the most important thing. These revolutions, according to Marxian scholars, these revolutions are considered as bourgeois revolutions by the Marxist scholars. Why? Because they emphasize civil and political rights and not gave due importance to socio-economic rights. The second generation rights were claimed and secured under the influence of socialism or socialist movements in the wake of the Industrial Revolution. That we should remember that the second generation of human rights, that is a result of socialism or the socialist movements across the globe. So that is why many states, they incorporated socio-economic rights in their constitution, or legislations were there for recognizing the socio-economic rights. We also highlighted the contribution of the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia, 1917, to the development of socio-economic rights. When we discuss the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia 1917 and the Chinese Revolution of 1949, or you'll find the expansion of communism in the Eastern European countries like Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, and other countries. So, in all these countries, wherever the socialist republics were established or socialism came or became the part and parcel of the administration or government, you will find that the socio-economic rights were first of all granted. Rather, political rights were curtailed in those countries. We can understand the Marxist theory of rights in the light of the base and superstructure logic. Before we try to explain what are the rights promoted by the Marxist theory, first of all, you have to understand this Marxist theory of rights in the light of the base and superstructure logic. According to Marx, the economic structure is the foundation, that is the base, and all other structures of the society, that is political, social, intellectual, religious, all these institutions or the structures, they are superstructure. There cannot be a meaningful change in the superstructure unless there is a change in the base, or that is the foundation, or that is what we call the substructure. So therefore, what happens that unless the economic rights are granted, the political and civil rights that are claimed, they will become meaningless. This is the main emphasis of the base and superstructure logic. So according to Marx, that there cannot be meaningful change in the society unless there is a change in the economic structure. Without changing the economic structure, some kind of cosmetic changes can be seen. But these cosmetic changes are not going to affect the life of the people in the real sense of the term. So that is why, the political rights that are claimed in the bourgeois state or the liberal nation states, or the civil rights that are claimed, they will, the individuals or the citizens will not be in a position to enjoy those rights. Why? Because in the absence of economic rights, all these political rights and the civil rights, they will become meaningless. For example, while discussing the definitions or the meaning of human rights, we also talked about that the fullest development of the personality is not possible unless certain claims of individuals are recognized as rights. But according to Marx, first of all, the basic needs should be satisfied. The basic material needs of human beings, they should be satisfied. Then we can think of development of the personality and other things, self-actualization, self-realization, etc. So that is why the base and superstructure logic of Marx occupies a very important place in relation to the analysis of social and political phenomena. Marx also considers right as a bourgeois notion based on individualism. This is again important. That what has happened that in the bourgeois revolutions, or in the rights that were, the rights that were claimed, civil and political rights, they were claimed for an individual who was possessive individual. An individual who was possessive individual, and he was basically conceived in isolation from the society. And that's why individualism, where individual freedom becomes the most important thing, not the collective good of the society, that becomes the most important thing. So that is why the individualism, we demanded absolute individual freedom. All restrictions, they were considered as, bad. So that is why, Marx believes that the bourgeois notion of human rights is based on individualism. The Marxian theory of alienation occupies a central place in understanding his approach to human rights. After base and superstructure logic, what do you have to understand? That the theory of alienation of Marx. So the human rights, the Marxian approach to human rights should be understood keeping in view Marxian humanism or and what we call the Marxian theory of alienation. According to Marx, in a bourgeois society where the workers are exploited, proletariat or the working class is exploited, so what happens in the society, in those bourgeois societies where there is exploitation of the have-nots or the working class, that the workers develop alienation, and alienation has different stages or different kind of alienations will be found. For example, a worker, because he is working very hard in hazardous conditions without any leisure and rest, so that is why what happens, that he develops first of all alienation from the nature. Then he develops alienation from society. He develops alienation from the art and literature and creativity, etc. After that, you'll find that he develops alienation from the family. Then after alienation from the family, we find alienation from the work that the work he does. So the worker develops alienation from the work also. The work he is doing, he is not enjoying. And he is just an alienated individual. He is living in a society where a large number of people are living. But he is all alone, very lonely in that society where thousands of people are living with him. And finally, the final stage of alienation is alienation from himself. So Marx was moved by the plight of the proletariat or the working class, and he wanted to emancipate the working class from the exploitation of the capitalist class, and that is why this ideology was developed. So therefore, first of all, the Marxian theory of alienation is to be understood, and in the light of the Marxian theory of alienation, we can interpret his approach to rights. After this, after these two important concepts, that is base and superstructure logic, that Marx believes that economic rights are most important thing, or the economy is the foundation or the base, and all other structures are the social, the social, political, intellectual structure. All these structures are superstructure. So that is why, if you want to bring any kind of change, you have to change the economic structure, then only everything will be changing. For example, if the political system is changed from presidential form of government, if we are moving to parliamentary form of government, it is just a cosmetic change, because it is not going to bring any meaningful change in the lives of the people. The change will come only when the production relations is changing. The production relation which is based on the exploitation, if that is challenged, and an equitable system of production is developed, or just system of production. So that is important to understand. After that, alienation is important, that we have already explained. Now the Marxian view of the state is vital to understand the Marxian approach to human rights. We see many theories about the origin of the state, or about the nature of the state, or about the functions of the state. For example, the organic view of the state that was maintained by Plato, or other Greek political philosophers, they used to believe that the city-state is everything. The city-state was the end, individuals were just the means. After that, we found divine origin theory of a state that believed that a state is created by God, and the ruler is also appointed by God. The act of ruler was considered as the act of God. After that, we discussed the social contract theory, under which it was said that a state is a man-made institution, and a state has been created for the protection of the rights of the people, according to John Locke, for example. a state has been created for maintaining order according to Hobbes, for example. So what we try to understand through these theories, that they are talking about the origin of the state, and the state of nature, or the relation, what should be the relationship between man and the state. All that is based on their approach to human nature, as well as their approach to the state of nature and other things. So the Marxian view of state, first of all, we have to understand if we want to explain or understand the Marxian approach to human rights. The state, according to Marx, is a class instrument. A state is not elevated to the level of God, and that should be worshipped. Marx says its state is an instrument of exploitation. The state, according to Marx, is a class instrument. It tries to protect and promote the interest of the dominant class. And according to Marx, the economically dominant class is always the politically dominant class. So the political power is monopolized by the economically dominant class. Marx says, and I quote, the executive of the modern state is but a committee for managing the common affairs of the whole bourgeois, unquote. You see. So it means that you can understand that the government that is maintained in the state, that is nothing but a committee to manage the common affairs of the whole bourgeois. Means capitalist class. It has nothing to do with, the interest of the proletariat class. Who controls the state? This is state according to, Marx, that we have to understand. First of all, Marx, believes that, Marx was a 19th century thinker. And he is one of the most influential political philosophers in the history of political science. His political theory or ideology divided the world into two hostile blocks. And for almost 45-50 years, in the international arena, we find that the ideological division were very sharp. So, when we are trying to understand this Marxian theory of rights, and we are explaining in the light of Marxian views of state, first of all, we should remember that the emerging mercantile class was able to control political power in the states. And that's why this class earlier, when a state was not controlled by them, for example, if the monarchy was there or feudal lords were there, at that time, the bourgeois thinkers or the liberal thinkers had declared a state as a necessary evil. Necessary because for maintaining order, avoiding anarchy, but it was an evil because it was against individual freedom. It was restricting individual freedom. So that is why it was necessary evil. But slowly and gradually, when they were able to acquire political power and control the policies and programs of the state, then they declared that a state is not a necessary evil but a necessary virtue. So that is why the concept of welfare state or welfare liberalism came into existence. So who controls the state? That is very much clear that it is the economically dominant class. Democracy just becomes an illusion that it gives power to the people. They said that the government is of the people for the, in a democracy is the government of the people, for the people, by the people. And that is why jokingly there are, people who say that democracy is a government of the people, that is OFF of, and for the people and by the people, BUY. We see the horse trading after the elections in our own country. And the role of money that we see during the election, that also we can see in our own country, which is the largest electoral democracy of the world. So that is why Marx believed that what happens that the economically dominant class is always the politically dominant class, and that is why the state's power is monopolized by them, and they try or they do what they maintain an order in which the capitalist interest will be promoted and protected, and the interest of the working class will be compromised. After that, Marx also says that the laws of the state protect and promote the interests of the bourgeois class. So, we should be law abiding citizens, it is said. But according to Marx, the laws are also nothing but the will of the will of the ruling class. So will of the ruling class is becomes law. It is passed through certain procedure. So the procedural republics are there. So that way some kind of procedure is followed. For example, 2/3 majority or the simple majority. All these things are there. But ultimately, what happens that according to the Marxian thinkers, you will find that the laws that are framed by the bourgeois state, they also try to protect and promote the interests of the bourgeois class only. So that is why in a bourgeois state there cannot be anything like just law. So that is why you can understand this view, this kind of opinion if he has or view about the state and its nature and its functions, what will be the implications for the rights of the people. The rights of the working class will be compromised, the rights of the have-nots will be compromised, and the monopoly over power of the state will be in the hands of the capitalist class, which is of course a minority. Then, Marx analyzes this and he says that what happens that, there is a class struggle that is going on in these states. And that class struggle is between the haves and have-nots. And to be specific, at the stage of capitalism, you see what happens that when the states are there, the bourgeois states, the conflict or the struggle is between the proletariat and the bourgeois, or between the capitalists and the working class. And interestingly, Marx does not believe in class harmony. Neither he thinks that state is in a position to maintain the class harmony or maintain the equilibrium in the society. He says that interests of the two classes are antagonistic. The interest of the working class and the interest of the capitalist class cannot be reconciled. They cannot be one, because the capitalist class is flourishing by exploiting the labor of the working class. So that is why it cannot compromise with its own interest. So that is why the class struggle is something that is going on in the state, and ultimately, according to him, what will happen is that finally socialism will come. When the working class develops consciousness, it becomes conscious of its exploitation. What will happen that it will try to bring revolution. So that is why, the developing consciousness through the understanding of dialectics is very, very important. So he does not believe in class harmony, rather he believes in class conflict. Rather he wants that class struggle should be intensified rather than trying to resolve the conflict, because it cannot be resolved at all. According to Marx, the rights have a class character. The rights in the bourgeois state have a class character. So, for example, in the bourgeois state, in the name of industrial peace, for example, in the name of national security, for example, the working class will be chained. They will not be allowed to protest. They will not be allowed to resist the exploitation that they are facing. It is a class character. What happens that some illusion of rights will be created, but ultimately the rights will be nothing but the privilege of the capitalist class and the duties of the working class. So that is why he tries to understand the class character of rights. According to Marx, the realization of rights by all is not possible in a class divided society. According to him, it is not possible, the realization of rights. So, rights cannot be realized by all the people. Especially, you will find it cannot be realized by the working class in a capitalist state. It is not possible. In the bourgeois state, rights are the privileges enjoyed by the economically dominant class, according to Marx. So, what happened? What are rights? The privileges enjoyed by the economically dominant class, that is the capitalist class. In a nutshell, what we find that according to Marxian view, rights in the bourgeois states are a smart illusion developed by the ruling class to deceive and confuse the toiling masses of have-nots. So, rights become a smart illusion that has been, developed by the capitalist class to deceive the working class. So, some welfare methods will be adopted. And these welfare measures will be projected as something that the state is caring for the poor and the have-nots. But in the final analysis, we will find that these are just smart illusions. For example, voting right will be given to the people. But the role of money will be such that it will be very difficult for the people to contest elections. In our own country, if we are trying to explain this particular aspect of Marxian theory of rights, we can see, for example, there is one ceiling that is imposed by the Election Commission of India for contesting elections of the parliament and assemblies. But you will find, and we all know that in the real practice what happens, that a lot of money is spent. And according to estimate of the people, those who are campaigners, they say that, it is in crores. So, for example, if a candidate for MP is going to spend 5 crore rupees or 10 crore rupees in one election, this amount can be afforded only by 5 to 10% of Indian population. It means 90% of the Indian population cannot afford the cost of election. So that is what happens, that the election is being contested between the rich people who can have this kind of money, this much money. So that is why, in a sense, what happens that it becomes so costly, the election becomes a costly affair, and that is why managing elections, winning election, that is very difficult without money. So therefore, the elections are contested by the rich people. Poor people are reduced to the voter, to the status of voters only. But the illusion is that we decide that who will be the ruler. This can be elaborated in the light of Noam Chomsky's and Herman books, Manufacturing Consent. How the consent is manufactured. For example, by the media, by the electronic and print media. It is again a costly affair. Can we, who is controlling the media in the different parts of the world? The corporate houses. So that is why the corporatization of media is there. So when the corporate houses are controlling media in the different countries of the world, it means that the corporatization of democracy is there. Because the public opinion is manufactured. Lenin rightly said that, the heads that we are carrying on our shoulders, they belong to us. But the ideas that are there in those heads, they don't belong to us. They have been implanted. They have been manufactured. So this is the reason that, the class character of the rights you have to understand. And that is why he is saying that the rights, the realization of rights by all is not possible in a class divided society. That is why Marx said that in the bourgeois state, rights are the privileges enjoyed by the economically dominant class, that we are seeing that the election becomes an affair where the only rich people can contest and win. And in this sense, rights as a smart illusion developed by the ruling class to deceive the toiling masses of have-not should be understood. Marx also believes that civil and political rights are illusions and are meaningless in the absence of economic and social rights. And to understand the Marxian theory of rights, we have to understand the class struggle, revolution, and the establishment of a socialist state as explained and visualized by Marx. So, these steps are very, very important to understand. So, first of all, it is the Marxian theory of rights should be understood in the light of what? First of all, class struggle, then revolution, and the establishment of a socialist state as explained and visualized by Marx. So, we are going to conclude here this lecture, but this Marxian theory of rights we will continue in the next lecture. So, in continuation, you have to also note that in the next lecture we will continue with the Marxian theory of rights. So, thank you very much for today.